The Gilded Misunderstanding. The early winter dusk in Boston cast a blue-gray light over the city. From her high-rise office, Caroline Miller watched snow begin to dust the streets below, a fleeting curtain between her and the skyline of her hometown. Success in Chicago had brought her back, but the city felt different now, laced with the old, familiar tension of family. "Ms. Miller, the final report is ready." Caroline turned, a polished, professional smile effortlessly gracing her features. "Thank you, Jason. I'll have my notes for the morning presentation." Her voice was calm, a testament to years of commanding boardrooms. She was a financial analyst who could read the soul of a spreadsheet, a talent that had built her career. Later, in the quiet of a taxi, her phone lit up with, "Mother." Caroline hesitated, the glow of the screen a tiny, demanding eye in the dim cab. "Carrie? I've made reservations with Brenda. We need to see you." Eleanor's voice was light, almost musical, but Caroline heard the steel beneath. "I can't, Mom. Not tonight. The presentation." "Always work," Eleanor sighed, the lightness evaporating. "It's always this with you. Brenda is so looking forward to it." "Tomorrow," Caroline conceded, closing her eyes. After the presentation, she ended the call and leaned her head against the cool window. The distance between her and her family wasn't just measured in miles. Brenda, the socialite, was their mother's radiant sun, while Caroline, too responsible, so serious, had always been the distant, dutiful star in a different constellation. Her apartment was a sanctuary of silence and sleek lines. The only vivid personal touch was the diamond sparkling on her left hand. Michael Hudson. His name was a bomb. They had met a year ago when she was consulting for his family's century-old furniture company, Hudson Furniture. Where others saw only numbers to cut, Caroline saw a legacy to save. She had crafted a strategy that honored its history while securing its future, and in doing so, she had captured the heart of the man who cherished it most. Michael loved her for the mind and heart her family seemed to overlook. When they announced their engagement, her mother's eyes had gleamed with calculation. "The Hudson family? Well, Carrie, you've landed a big one." Brenda's congratulation was a thinly veiled barb. "You've always made such sensible investments." The memory stung, but Caroline buried it, focusing on the warm glow of the city lights. Her phone buzzed again. Michael. Instantly, a genuine, unforced smile softened her features. He was her true peace. The days blurred into a whirlwind of wedding plans. At a floral consultation, Caroline approved an arrangement of white roses and baby's breath. "It's perfect," she said, her mind already drifting to the evening's dinner with her mother and sister. She found them at a corner table in an opulent restaurant, their conversation halting abruptly as she approached. "You're late, Carrie," Eleanor said, offering a cool cheek. "The wedding dress? Have you decided?" "A simple, elegant design," Caroline replied, taking her seat. "Simple?" Brenda arched a perfectly sculpted brow. "For a Hudson wedding? Shouldn't it be a spectacle?" "Michael liked it," Caroline said, her tone even. "You are a lucky girl," her mother interjected, leaning forward. "To be chosen by a man like Michael. What is the family's net worth, exactly?" "Mom." Caroline's voice was a low warning. "I love him. His money is irrelevant." Eleanor and Brenda exchanged a glance that was a whole, silent conversation. "Of course, dear," Eleanor soothed, patting her hand. "But you do love him, don't you?" The question, asked in that same probing tone for the 10th time, felt like a trap. "I've told you, yes. But you'll keep your job in Chicago?" Brenda pressed, swirling her wine. "What's the point of marrying a Boston heir if you're not going to join the family business?" "We're working it out," Caroline said, her composure fraying. "But you'll do your duty, won't you?" Her mother smiled. "A Hudson wife has certain expectations." Caroline fell silent, the will to fight seeping away. Later, in Michael's office, the contrast was a relief. He showed her plans to revitalize Hudson Furniture, his eyes alight with passion. "This is your doing, Caroline. I can't wait to build this future with you." He then grew mischievous. "I have a surprise for the wedding. I want people to see the you that I see. Especially your family." "My family?" A knot tightened in her stomach. "They don't appreciate you," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "And you deserve to be seen." The night before the wedding, alone in her hotel room, Caroline's anxiety was a live wire. A memory surfaced, unbidden. Brenda's voice, careless on the phone a few days prior. I can't wait to see Carrie's face when everyone realizes she's just a gold digger. The words still cut. She had built a life on merit and integrity, only to be reduced to a caricature by her own blood. Her phone rang, Michael's name a beacon. Nervous, he asked, his voice a warm anchor? A little, she admitted. Tomorrow will be the best day, he promised. Everything will become clear. What will? The day everyone learns who you truly are. His cryptic reassurance stayed with her, a small, bright shield against the dread. Whatever happened, it was their day. No one could take that from them. Under the soft spring sun of the Hudson family estate, it was perfect. Caroline walked down the petal-strewn aisle, her simple dress glowing, her eyes locked with Michael's. The ceremony was a vow of mutual respect and love. At the reception, amid the champagne and laughter, Caroline allowed herself to believe in the fantasy. Then the MC spoke. And now, a word from the bride's sister, Brenda Miller. Brenda rose, a brilliant emerald in a sea of pastels, and took the microphone with a conspiratorial smile. Everyone, we're all here for my sister, Carrie, she began, her tone bright and teasing. But honestly, I never thought I'd see this day. Polite laughter rippled. My sister has always been so practical. Since college, it was all about the top firms, the biggest portfolios. She paused, her smile sharpening. Well, let's be honest. Carrie always said she'd marry a CEO. And look, she bagged the heir to an empire. The crowd chuckled, unsure. Caroline's smile was carved from ice. She felt the heat of a blush creep up her neck. Then her mother stood, raising her glass high. To my daughter, Eleanor declared, her voice ringing with false pride. The gold digger who finally struck it rich. The laughter died. An awkward silence fell over a portion of the guests. Caroline's world shrank to the humiliating spotlight, her vision blurring with unshed tears. This was the culmination of every slight, every misunderstanding, laid bare on the day that was meant to be her redemption. And then, Michael stood. The air shifted. He didn't move quickly, but with a deliberate, powerful grace that commanded the room's absolute attention. His expression was not one of anger, but of profound clarity. He looked directly at Brenda and Eleanor, his voice quiet yet piercing in the stunned silence. Is that what you truly believe? He asked. Is that the story you've decided to tell about the woman I love? The room held its breath. The confrontation they had all silently witnessed now had a defender, and the wedding was about to take an unexpected turn. The air in the reception hall was thick with humiliation. Caroline sat frozen. The cruel words from her mother and sister hanging in the silence like a poison. Her cheeks burned, and the world had narrowed to the pounding of her own heart. This was the moment they had always threatened. The family narrative of the cold, calculating gold digger made devastatingly public. Then, Michael stood. His movement was calm, a rock in a turbulent sea. He didn't shout. He simply looked at Brenda and Eleanor, his gaze stripping away their smirks until only confusion remained. Is that what you truly believe? His voice was quiet, yet it carried to every corner of the room. Then let me show you the woman I fell in love with. He gave a subtle nod. The lights dimmed, and the large screen at the back of the hall glowed to life. The first image was not a graph or a chart, but a candid shot from the Hudson Furniture anniversary party. Caroline was surrounded not by executives, but by workshop employees. Her hands animated as she explained something. She was laughing, and the men and women around her were leaning in, their expressions engaged and respectful. A voiceover, extracted from a business magazine interview, played. The anonymous strategist behind Hudson's revival emphasized that a company's greatest asset isn't its machinery, but the hands and hearts that operate it. The scene shifted to a graph, stark and clear, showing the company's plunge toward bankruptcy and its subsequent meteoric recovery. Key inflection points were highlighted: Sustainable Materials Initiative, Artisan Preservation Grant, Community Outreach Program. Each was tagged with a simple, powerful credit, CM, proposal. The final slide was not a statistic, but a collage. Caroline sharing coffee with an elderly craftsman, her head bent in concentration. Caroline presenting in a boardroom, her expression sharp and confident. Caroline and Michael on a factory tour, their shared smile full of unspoken understanding. Superimposed over the images were two words: priceless, indispensable. The screen went dark. For a moment, the silence was absolute, deeper and more profound than before. Then, a single pair of hands began to clap. It was Joseph Hudson, Michael's father. Soon, Elizabeth joined him, and then the entire hall erupted in a wave of warm, sustained applause. The guests weren't just clapping for a business success. They were applauding a person they had just truly met for the first time. Tears streamed freely down Caroline's face, but they were tears of catharsis. She felt seen, not as a label, but as a soul. Michael took her hand, his grip firm and sure. He addressed the room, but his eyes were on her. "This is the woman I love, the savior of my family's legacy, a person of immense talent, intelligence, and, most importantly, profound compassion." He then turned, his gaze sweeping over the guests before settling back on Caroline. "There's a reason for that compassion, a story she never told anyone. The day she first came to us, I couldn't understand her devotion. She refused bonuses, worked late not for recognition, but for the result." His voice grew softer, more intimate. "I later discovered that her grandfather worked at our factory decades ago. During a terrible recession, my grandfather, the founder, dipped into his own savings to ensure every employee kept their job and their dignity. Because of that act, Caroline's grandfather could support his family and send his son, her father, to college." A collective, soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Caroline looked at Michael, her eyes wide with shock. She had never shared that secret, the deeply personal reason the company's fate mattered so much to her. She wanted to repay that kindness. Michael continued, his voice thick with emotion. "She wasn't driven by a desire for wealth, but by a mission to protect lives, just as her own family had been protected. I didn't just fall in love with her mind, I fell in love with her heart. She didn't just save a company, she gave my life new meaning." The spell he cast was broken not by noise, but by movement. Joseph Hudson stood and walked to Caroline. The dignified patriarch took both her hands in his. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough with an emotion he made no effort to hide. "You protected our history when we were about to lose it. You are not just a daughter to us now, you are a guardian of our story." As Elizabeth embraced her, Caroline finally found her voice. She stood, facing the crowd, a new strength in her posture. "For so long," she began, her voice trembling only for a moment before steadying, "I accepted a caricature of myself, too serious, a workaholic. I let those words define me because I didn't know how to fight them." She looked directly at her mother and sister. "I was passionate about my work because I believe every number has a human story." Michael was the first person to see that not as a flaw, but as a gift. "He taught me what love truly is, being seen for who you are at your core." She took a step toward her family. "Mom, Brenda, I love you. I always have. And I am offering you a chance, not to take back your words, but to finally see me, to know the real me." The silence that followed was fragile, full of possibility. Slowly, unsteadily, Eleanor rose. The facade of social grace had completely crumbled, leaving a raw, ashamed woman. "Carrie," she whispered, her voice breaking, "my dear girl, I am so sorry." Caroline met her halfway, and as her mother collapsed into her arms, sobbing, years of icy distance began to thaw. Brenda approached next, her eyes downcast, her earlier bravado replaced by profound regret. "Sis, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Caroline whispered, opening her arm to include her sister in the embrace. Michael watched, his hand resting on Caroline's back, a silent pillar of support. "This," he said softly, "for her ears alone, is all I wanted for you, for everyone to see your worth." As music swelled and the celebration truly began again, the atmosphere had transformed. The humiliation had been purified into a profound recognition. Caroline, standing with her husband and her newly humbled, hopeful family, felt a weight she had carried for a lifetime finally lift. She was home. 1 year later. Spring sunlight dappled the terrace of their Boston home. Caroline sipped her coffee, watching the garden where the Hudson Scholars launch party would soon begin. The program, their shared passion project, was providing opportunities for underprivileged youth. "The final proposals are ready," Michael said, joining her and kissing her temple. "Today will be incredible." Brenda texted, She's running late but she'll be here, Caroline said, her tone warm. After the wedding, Brenda had embarked on a journey of self-reflection and therapy. She now volunteered with the scholarship fund, discovering her own aptitude for mentorship. When the doorbell rang, it was Eleanor, holding a pie. For the guests, she said, her smile genuine. The illness that had followed the wedding had been a harsh but necessary catalyst, breaking down the last of her walls. Their monthly dinners were now a cherished ritual. In the living room, Joseph and Elizabeth chatted with the first cohort of scholarship students. The room buzzed with a warmth that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with choice. Later, as Brenda arrived and embraced her, whispering, "You're really changing lives, sis," Caroline felt the truth of it. That evening, as the sun set, Michael found her on the terrace. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. More than that, she leaned back into him. "I'm whole." She looked back at the house, at the blended mosaic of family, by birth, by marriage, and by choice, laughing and connecting in the warm light. The journey had been long, but she had finally arrived at a profound truth. Family is not a title you are born with, but a circle you build, one act of understanding, one moment of unconditional love at a time.